Ever since the One Punch Man manga has debuted in June 14, 2012, Saitama has been proving continuously that nobody in the verse can really fight him, let alone be compared to him in any shape or form. He is certainly always holding back and never really tried his best against any opponent so far. I mean, that's clearly the premise of the show, since Saitama is supposed to be an endgame character that can one-shot any opponent he faces, no matter how strong or skillful they are. However, in 2015, when the first season of the anime dropped and we only had up to 85 chapters, Saitama's best feats were jumping from the moon to Earth in a matter of seconds and stopping an attack that could have destroyed the whole planet with one serious punch. However, as impressive as these feats are, being only physical means they are not outside of this world's understanding. So being able to destroy multiple galaxies, moving way beyond the speed of light, and decimating a planet like Jupiter with a mere sneeze are all obviously crazy feats in their own right, but they're not as insane as saying, for example, yo, Saitama can legitimately grab Gojo's infinity with his fingers and literally toss it away. Your first question after hearing this would be, is that even possible? So in this video, we will follow this particular criteria and talk about every single insane feat Saitama has performed that is genuinely very hard to explain. Concepts that intuitively are very hard for us to understand, since people due to recency bias are forgetting that Saitama has been displaying insane feats from a long time ago. But before that, please make sure to /the subscribe button and the notification bell for more of these One Punch Man videos. Thank you. Now, the first one comes from the fight between Wild Emperor and Phoenix Man, specifically in chapter 99, where the latter reveals a crazy ability of which he can literally expand a domain expansion by projecting a space of his own psyche where nothing really is tangible. He explains that this space inside his costume, of which he calls a mental area, leads to the spiritual world where time flows differently. But Saitama, being the anomaly he is, entered the spiritual space with ease, forcing his way by physically punching through. And on top of that, somehow before entering, Saitama could hear or sense that Wild Emperor and Phoenix Man were having a full-on conversation inside that spiritual space. This is literally the equivalent of, let's say, for example, Itachi from Naruto using Genjutsu against Kakashi, only for Saitama to enter that space by simply forcing his way through. Something that was very hard to explain and didn't make sense to a lot of people at that time. This is also known as astral projection, which is the ability to separate one's spirit or soul from one's body, essentially leaving the body to enter an astral realm, allowing them to communicate and interact with souls. And if you're well invested in the Marvel universe, a character called Doctor Strange heavily relies on this ability, and Saitama casually showcased he can pretty much do the same thing. Now, the second feat comes from the fight between Cosmic Figaro and Saitama, specifically in chapter 167. However, it's very important to circle back to the fight that happened right before, which is Garu versus Blast, where even though Blast was initially getting the best of Garu, the latter managed to copy two of his abilities, the Gravity Knuckle and the Circular Portal. The Circular Portal is considered to be a hyperspace gate according to Garu, and in science fiction, hyperspace, also known as null space, subspace, overspace, jump space, and similar terms, is a concept relating to higher dimensions as well as parallel universes, which means that this portal should hypothetically be, by the very least, a fourth dimensional construct. Now, forward to chapter 167, Garu wanted to avoid fighting Saitama in Jupiter by sending him to another dimension, but Saitama, being the crazy character he is, just casually kicked the portal away and was able to grab that space like it's a tangible object. So the question that everybody has at this point is, how does he touch something that which does not physically exist? Now, to give an example, as I said before from another anime, Gojo's infinity of Jujutsu Kaisen allows him to manipulate and distort space at will, but Saitama can physically interact with space and literally kick it away. So most likely, Gojo's infinity would be absolutely useless against someone like Saitama. Now, the third feat comes from the conclusion of the same fight, where Garu regrets everything he has done, having to see Tario's body laying in the ground, understanding that he has become what he hated before, eventually teaching Saitama a technique that he couldn't really master, literally allow him to revert back back in time by forcing his particles to move in opposite directions. This allowed Saitama to throw an absolutely unavoidable punch that defies causality, completely destroyed Garu after he performed the gamma ray burst, meaning this action doesn't have a cause or an effect, literally performed in negative time. Made a lot of people in the community suggest that Saitama has immeasurable speed. However, we probably wouldn't be seeing this type of ability performed by Saitama anymore. Anything that has time travel gets completely ruined due to not really having any major consequences. That's why when the Saitama of the present and the future merged, he completely forgot everything that happened between him and Garu. Hence, he doesn't know now that he has access to this crazy ability. Otherwise, he can spam it anytime a city gets destroyed or somebody dies. Now, the fourth feat actually comes from a cover page in chapter 192, where Saitama is seen bench pressing 2 black holes. And as I remember, this has shaken the internet power scaling wise at that time, where multiple fans went crazy on this, calculating how much force he needed in order to accomplish this feat. You see, black holes are not solid surfaces, so to be able to attach a bar and lift them is literally impossible. However, by using Schwarz's shield radius formula to find out the mass of each black hole by measuring out its radius compared to Saitama's grip and the bar, the result that came out of this was completely mind-blowing. Saitama was certainly bench pressing the mass of 15 planets in each side of the bar. That's crazy, right? But this isn't really the end of the story. You see, to get a complete idea of Saitama's strength is to not only find out the mass of what he holds, but specifically how much he can move them. So if we're assuming that Saitama is doing a regular bench press operating under the Earth's gravity, then lifting 2 black holes just once would generate enough force to rival the same amount of energy as the sun does each second. Bro, what? But that's also not the end of the story, since the black holes have some crazy surface gravity, and for Saitama to keep himself in the same position, not to be completely sucked by not 1 but 2 black holes is completely insane. However, there's a question that everybody keeps saying, which is this really canon? Since it's a cover page and didn't really happen in the story, we simply do not know. But the fact is, if Saitama can sneeze out a planet, this wouldn't be far-fetched to do. Alright, the last feat happened recently in chapter 209, where Saitama managed to grab a slash that not only came from another higher plane of existence, but also is supposed to ignore the causality of this universe, which means that this certain attack is supposed to be impossible to dodge with normal means. But again, Saitama not only did it casually, using only 2 of his fingers, but also managed to physically force its caster to be pushed outside of this higher dimension to be pulled back to this original universe. Void himself clearly stated there is nothing that could stop the dimensional blade which cuts through space itself, but Saitama did it with relative ease. It's also important to note that Void has been seen grabbing space and folding it like a piece of tissue, but for him, in his perspective, to be able to grab the dimensional blade like that is completely impossible. I've already explained how crazy broken Void's abilities are in details in my Void vs Cosmic Freak Garu's video. You should go and check it out. This feat for a lot of people in the power scaling community solidified that Saitama could be by this point boundless. Nothing ever can defeat him and can overcome almost anything. I mean, look at my review for chapter 209 where the comments were rivaling the numbers of likes. I mean, it's only natural for people to be this contentious, especially since interacting with a being that operates from a higher dimension and stopping an attack that could have immeasurable speed with relative ease suggests that Saitama could be very much boundless.
この星の代表が計り知れないエネルギーを感じる。
Thank you so much for watching this video and please take good care.